Lady Lavellen, on behalf of the Inquisition.
What a pleasure to meet you, my lady. Seeing the same faces at every event becomes so tiresome. So you must be a guest of Madame de Fer, or are you here for Duc Bastien?
Are you here on business? I have heard the most curious tales of you. I cannot imagine half of them are true.
What have you heard about me?
Some say that when the veil opened, Andraste herself delivered you from the Fate.
I'm not familiar with that name. I was invited here by First Enchanter Vivien.
Madame de Fer is a fond nickname the court has given Lady Vivien.
I've heard she finds it amusing.
I've heard very little about Duc Bastien.
He hasn't been seen much at court lately.
His business with the Council of Heralds often takes him from home for long periods. It can't be good for a man of his years.
And of course, there's the Civil War. Bastien probably wishes to distance himself from the actions of his one-time son-in-law.
Tearing up the Dales in a foolish bid for power? It will end in disgrace for Gaspard. Everyone knows it.
Some of those storytellers may have gotten carried away.
But only for the best effect. The Inquisition is a ripe subject for wild tales.
The Inquisition. What a lot of pig shit. Washed-up sisters and crazed seekers. No one can take them seriously. Everyone knows it's just an excuse for a bunch of political outcasts to grab power.
The Inquisition is working to restore peace and order to Thedas.
Here comes the outsider, restoring peace with an army. We know what your Inquisition truly is. If you were a woman of honor, you'd step outside and answer the charges.
My dear Marquis, how unkind of you to use such language in my house to my guests. You know such rudeness is intolerable.
Madame Vivien, I humbly beg your pardon.
You should. Whatever am I going to do with you, my dear? My lady, you're the wounded party in this unfortunate affair. What would you have me do with this foolish, foolish man?
The Marquis doesn't interest me. Do whatever you like with him.
Poor Marquis. Issuing challenges and hurling insults like some Ferelden doglord. And all dressed up in your Aunt Solange's doublet. Didn't she give you that to wear to the Grand Tourney? To think all the brave chevaliers who will be competing left for Markham this morning, and you're still here. Were you hoping to sate your damaged pride by defeating the Herald of Andraste in a public duel? Or did you think her blade could put an end to the misery of your failure? Run along, my dear. Do give my regards to your aunt. I'm delighted you could attend this little gathering. I've so wanted to meet you. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Vivien, First Enchanter of Montsimard, and Enchantress to the Imperial Court.
Is that Marquis going to pose a problem?
His aunt is the Vicomtesse of Mont de Glace. Not a powerful family, but well respected. And very devout. Alphonse will be disowned for this. It's not the first time he's brought his aunt disgrace, but I'm sure it'll be the last. And after such a public humiliation, I expect he'll run off to the Dales to join the Empress's war effort. Either to make a good end, or to win back a modicum of self-respect.
Your salon has certainly exceeded my expectations so far.
I'm glad to keep you entertained, my dear. I wanted to meet face to face. It is important to consider one's connections carefully. With Divine Justinia dead, the Chantry's in shambles. Only the Inquisition might restore sanity and order to our frightened people. As the leader of the last loyal mages of Thedas, I feel it only right that I lend my assistance to your cause.
Are you devout? What's your opinion of the Chantry?
I was a great admirer of the late divine Justinian V. The Chantry, at its best, unites the disparate cultures of Thedas and looks after its most vulnerable. Had she lived, Justinia could have accomplished so much.
You are aware that the Chantry hasn't sanctioned this Inquisition?
The Chantry is leaderless. They're in no position to officially sanction anything. Besides, my dear, if there is one virtue the Chant of Light teaches us, it is forgiveness. Once the Inquisition has sealed the breach, I'm sure the new Divine will not care in the slightest about official permission.
You say you led the last of the loyal mages. Loyal to whom?
To the people of Thedas, of course. We have not forgotten the commandment, as some have, that magic exists to serve man. I support any effort to restore such order.
So you're in favor of returning the mages to the Circle, then?
Where else can mages safely learn to master their talents? We need an institution to protect and nurture magic. Maker knows, magic will find neither on its own.
What's in this for you?
The same thing anyone gets by fighting this chaos. The chance to meet my enemy, to decide my fate. I won't wait quietly for destruction.
You say you led the last of the loyal mages. Loyal to whom?
To the people of Thedas, of course. We have not forgotten the commandment, as some have, that magic... I support any effort to restore such order.
What exactly can you do for the Inquisition?
I am well versed in the politics of the Orlesian Empire. I know every member of the Imperial Court personally. I have all the resources remaining to the Circle at my disposal. And I'm a mage of no small talent. Will that do?
Does that mean you'd be aiding the Inquisition from the Imperial Palace?
Ordinarily, I would be happy to serve as liaison to the court, but these are not ordinary times. The veil has been ripped apart and there is a hole in the sky. It is now the duty of every mage to work towards sealing the breach. And so I would join the Inquisition on the field of battle.
The Inquisition will be happy to have you, Lady Vivien.
Great things are beginning, my dear. I can promise you that. Into a circle, as far as I can tell, yet you're remarkably skilled. Were you self-taught?
Not at all. I studied magic with Keeper Deshana.
I have heard about the traditions of magic among the Dalish keepers, but it's all third-hand. In my own experience, nothing is more deadly to a young mage than a lack of knowledge, which makes the current state of things precarious. What do you imagine will happen if the circles are not restored? Do you foresee the Dalish taking us all under their wing?
Mages deserve the same freedom as anyone else.
I hear that so often. It must be a great comfort to the common folk to know that their survival is trivial compared to our freedom. I'm sure that makes everything better. Justinia's death has shattered the balance of power in Thedas. If it is not restored quickly, countless lives will be lost. Mages, Templars, innocent people of all kinds now look to the Inquisition to decide their fate.
That's why you wanted to be here, to have a hand in deciding that fate.
Wouldn't you? For almost 1,000 years, the world believed it was in the hands of the Maker. And now many believe you are the agent of his will. Whatever the truth is, that belief gives you power.
If that's true, then I'll put it to good use.
I suppose we'll see. I've stolen enough of your time, my dear. Don't let me keep you. Yes?
I'd like to know more about you, Madame Vivien.
Whatever would you like to know?
Your accent's not Orlesian. Where exactly are you from?
I am from the Circle, my dear. One's country of origin rarely matters there. But if you must know, I was born in Wycombe in the Free Marches. I was sent to the Ostwick Circle, but I transferred to Monsignor while still an apprentice.
I'm curious how a Circle mage winds up a courtier.
Nobody winds up at court, my dear. It takes a great deal of effort to arrive there. I caught the eye of Duke Bastien de Ghislaine, an advantageous connection that opened many doors. When the position of Enchanter to the Imperial Court became vacant, I was able to secure it.
You're married to the Duke de Ghislaine?
Of course not, my dear. Don't be ridiculous. Marriage is the business of alliance and inheritance. I'm Bastien's mistress.
What duties does a court enchanter have?
I am tasked with providing assistance to the Empress on arcane matters. Most of my predecessors restricted this to lighting lamps and doing parlor tricks. In such troubled times as these, however, I provide political advice to Her Majesty on the subject of the Mage Rebellion. Yes?
I wanted to ask you about the Circle of Magi.
Of course. What do you wish to know?
What was it like to live in a Circle?
My dear, your question is the root of all problems with mages. I cannot tell you. Every Circle was different. Their Templars were different, their politics unique. And every person within each tower had an experience of Circle life unique to themselves. Some people suffered and some were content. Some were cruel, some compassionate, and some indifferent. The same is true of people everywhere, in all circumstances, whether they are mages or not.
So tell me about your personal experience with the Circle.
I enjoyed life in the Montsimard Circle, my dear. It was an edifice devoted to knowledge and refinement. And there is comfort to be had, you know, in the company of fellow mages. Those born without magic will never truly understand us.
You must have been under constant supervision, being forced by Templars to live in the tower. Was that hard to endure?
My dear, I have a suite in the palace and a wing at my dear Duke Bastien's estate. I've never been forced to live anywhere. Most circles allowed mages to live away from the tower, either on their own or in service to the nobility. All that was required was permission from the first enchanter. Some circles were harsher in their restrictions. Kirkwall was the worst, but it was the exception. Most were quite permissive. Perhaps too permissive, in retrospect.
How did we come to this state with the Circles in revolt?
A failure of perspective that infected Circle leadership. Mages lived solely in a world of Templars and mages. They could not even imagine what was beyond the tower walls. Kirkwall gave the world a reason to remember its fear of magic. A mage killed hundreds with a snap of their fingers. Across Thedas, a new tangible fear of magic grew. Commoners and nobles alike called out to the Chantry for protection. But the malcontents in the towers thought nothing of this. They cared only for themselves and for their anger at the new Templar restrictions. When a mage attempted to assassinate Divine Justinia, again, the mages protested the investigation. The leadership chose to vote on independence based on the intolerable conditions imposed by the Templars, sparing no thought to the fact that magic was more feared in the aftermath of these attacks than it had been since Tevinter's day. So long as they had their freedom, they could care little for riots, angry mobs, or about pitting mages against each other.
Are you familiar with Grand Enchanter Fiona?
We've met. Before her horrendously ill-timed and selfish vote for independence, I thought her adequate at her job. In her dotage, she could not handle looking after the well-being of so many people. We would have done better to replace her years ago, to let her spend time gardening.
I thought the fighting was only between mages and Templars. Why are mages fighting mages?
The vote for independence was carried by only a small margin, but Fiona chose to let the motion stand. Those who opposed a rash declaration of war against the entire free world had little choice. By breaking from the Chantry when they did, the rebels declared themselves in support of mass murder. Anyone who did not wish to support terrorism and the slaughter of innocents was forced to take arms against the rebels.
Did they have cause to rebel?
In the aftermath of their terrorist attacks? Was that really the most opportune time to break away? By all means protest abuses by the Templars. Just don't do it in a way that says mages support wholesale murder. By voting when they did, my colleagues all but declared war upon the ordinary people of Thedas. A war in which we are outnumbered 100 to 1. If Fiona and her malcontents are joining us as allies, we need to be prepared. Abominations are inevitable. Cullen doesn't have enough Templars to handle incidents. Some of the rank and file need to be trained.
These mages joined us freely. We don't need Templars to contain them.
My dear, I don't think you've grasped the magnitude of the situation. The veil is broken, and the raw power of the Fade rushes out like floodwaters through a shattered levee. You know as well as I do that mages attract demons where the veil is thin. And if demons can walk our world with no blood magic to summon them, how safe do you think our allies are? There has never been a greater threat to mages than the Breach. Until it is closed, no one is safe.
If you're seeing demons everywhere, do you believe you're a risk? Do you believe I am?
We are a risk, darling. Better to know it and use caution. Magic is dangerous, just as fire is dangerous. Anyone who forgets this truth gets burned.
You're right, but Templars are a poor solution.
They are men, and all men are flawed. That some fail does not mean that none should try. The fact remains that there is no cure for an abomination except death. Someone must strike the killing blow. Who shall lower the blade if not a Templar? Tell me something. You said once that you wanted to change things. What future would you build for mages?
Mages should be treated like anybody else.
How free did you feel living on the run, never straying too close to villages or staying in one place too long? Paint the cage any color you like. It is still a cage. It's something to consider, my dear. You were very skilled in arranging matters at the Winter Palace, my dear. We will hope Briala can keep what's been given. How may I help you?
I'd like to know more about you, Madame Vivien.
Whatever would you like to know?
Why don't you tell me more about your Duke?
Bastien was the leader of the Council of Heralds. The only person who could bring that rabble into line. He could charm a bird out of its feathers, and frequently did. I remember once, he broke up a fight between Prosper de Montfort and the Dowager with a joke and a glass of wine. Oh, Bastien. I'm sorry, my dear. I don't think I can discuss this. Do you need something, my dear?
What are your thoughts about the others in the Inquisition?
I admire Cassandra's determination. If she had a little charm, she could be a remarkable leader. Did you need something, darling?
What are you...
Whether Cole is a spirit or a demon is irrelevant. Neither can be trusted, my dear. Remember that. How may I help you?
What are you...
Our dear Lord Dorian is very sure of himself, isn't he? Let's hope he doesn't get his confidence crushed. How may I help you? What exactly is Varric's role in the Inquisition? Aside from irritating Cassandra. Do you need something, my dear?
What are your thoughts?
Blackwall is a useful sort of fellow, but he's perhaps too eager to please. He reminds me of a pup begging for attention. Do you need something, my dear?
What are you...
I admire Cassandra. How may I help you?
What are you...
Is it my imagination, dear? Or have certain lingering looks past between you and us. You walked physically through the Fade. Please tell me what you remember.
In all the times I've been to the Fade, I've never seen it react so strongly to my presence.
No one else has physically entered the Fade since the Magisters assaulted the Golden City. Oh, I'm positively envious. It's been quite the momentous day, hasn't it, my dear? How do you feel? It's not every day one absorbs ancient elven magic.
Actually, between the voices and the binding oath to a possibly demonic power, I'm a bit concerned.
Wise of you, Inquisitor. We cannot guess at what the lasting effects of the well might be. The Circle had little information about elven magic to begin with. Perhaps I'll speak to Dorian. Rest assured, we will find a way to circumvent whatever bargain you've made. The pieces are nearly in place. We'll soon strike against Corypheus directly. You've done well. I will be proud to fight alongside you when the time comes. You've made such intriguing design choices for the castle, my dear. They must be inspired.
I strive to match your elegant sense of style.
Once this business with Corypheus is done, I'll take you to Val Royeaux. You should meet my seamstress. And appearances are important. We can't have you mistaken for a commoner.
I should look like a commoner. I need to be perceived as a woman of the people.
By all means appeal to the common folk, but be a figure that inspires them. You command an army of the faithful, outfitted by the coin of the nobility. You must be a woman who commoners aspire to be, and to whom nobles bow.
And you think I can accomplish this purely through fashion?
It is a weapon in your arsenal. Don't overlook it, my dear. The stories of your accomplishments will spread, and with them, doubt. Are you truly the woman from the tales? They will question what they've heard, but they will believe what they see. They must see someone greater than legends.
If that's your standard for me, what does the Divine have to live up to?
Andraste and the Maker cast very large shadows. The Divine absolutely must set the example for all Thedas. She must seem to be the embodiment of the Maker to the faithful. She needs the authority of the Maker and the charisma of Andraste. It will be no small task to fill that vacant throne.
I expected ruins.
They were. As you see, the Inquisition has not been idle.
Would it be possible to meet the Herald before we return to Ghislaine?
My dear Laurent, for you, anything. Allow me to present Inquisitor Llewellyn.
Your worship, you do us great honor.
Inquisitor, this is my dear Bastien's sister, Grand Cleric Marceline, and his son, Duke Laurent of the Council of Heralds.
Madame de Fer has told us what great trials you faced, trying to save my poor brother's life.
The Maker called my father to his side. It was valiant of you to champion him in his final hours.
If only I'd been able to save Bastien.
The Circle of Magi told Bastien many years ago that his illness was incurable. It was simply his time.
Would you mind waiting for me in the chapel, my dears? The Inquisitor and I have business to discuss.
It has been our very great pleasure, Herald.
So you've met the family now, and made a good impression in spite of yourself. Well done.
I don't understand. What just happened here?
A victory. My victory. Properly worded, the righteous cause of the Inquisition can be used to great effect with my Bastien's deeply pious relations. With Bastien's loss, I have connections to the Council of Heralds and the highest levels of the Chantry. All thanks to you.
Well, at least everything's worked out for you in the end.
So it has. And well arranged, if I do say so myself. Well, I can't keep Marceline and Laurent waiting. Thank you so much for your cooperation, Inquisitor. I could never have done this without your help. So much to do, my dear. I'll be returning to Val Royeaux to organize the Loyalist mages. Our new Emperor requires my expertise during what is certain to be a difficult transition. But that will wait. Are you enjoying the celebration? Josephine was in a frenzy arranging it.
As a matter of fact, I am.
This is all for you, darling. Enjoy yourself. You've earned it. Go mingle. The The night is still young. The Conclave made an interesting choice in Leliana. Inspired by something, no doubt. I would find the proceedings entertaining were it not going to create a mess I'll have to